What's up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to today's market analysis episode. And this is going to be a different type of episode because what we're going to be doing is essentially just analyzing the market over these past few days that we've missed. And you might be wondering, why haven't I uploaded any videos in the last 4 days, I think, right? Well, this entire week is essentially filled with the news, and the only realistic trading day would have been Monday, but then again, it's a Monday, and Wednesday is ADP NFP, so it's 50-50. It's hard to tell whether we want to trade any of these really, and it's always better to be more safe than sorry when we're putting our capital at risk. So let's go straight in and see what's up with the news. So this week, what we've seen happen, right? Let's go to Monday. Monday, it was a pretty calm day. We did have jolts right in the peak time of our market session. Tuesday, we had, nah, that's tomorrow. Today, we had jolts, sorry. But on Monday, Monday was a pretty clear day in terms of news. We didn't have too much speakers, and it was a pretty typical day. But it's a Monday, and you know how Mondays are. Now, for Tuesday, we did have two situations that did make it quite difficult to actually put on a trade. First of all, there's likely lower volatility with the fact that Canadian session for the Canadians participants, the bank is closed there, it's a bank holiday, and we also have that Powell is speaking throughout the session, and on top of that, we have ISM PMI and JOLTS job openings. During NFP week, it might be a good idea to take the whole week off. Today definitely was a day that since Powell was speaking, Jolt's Canadian participants being away because it's a bank holiday, it would likely be a day that we do not put our capital on the line. So we're literally off the charts yesterday, today, and over the weekend. Tomorrow, tomorrow will likely be on the charts because although we do have ADP, I do want to just be on charts and get more screen time with the news and these different types of news events that have been occurring. So I do want to be there tomorrow to analyze the market, but that's what we'll do as well this week. So like I mentioned, this is a combination analysis segment in which we'll go over pre-week analysis, although we're in the middle of the week. We'll go over the few days that have occurred. And on top of that, we will be analyzing everything that we've been doing so far. Yeah. But yeah, tomorrow, Wednesday, we do have ADP, NFP, non-farm employment change. And Thursday, market closes early, USD, as you can see, here, on Thursday, market closes early, and we have NFP. So with all of that, Thursday is definitely going to be a day to take off or just be flat in the market with NFP and early close. And then Friday, it's also bank holiday. So there's that. But that's essentially all the news here for this week. So with that news comes increased volatility, and that might set us up for potential setups in the upcoming week. And we have to see how those setups and the movement that has been created will actually work out for us. As you can see, we're at the all-time high area, and when we're at the all-time high area, it can be quite difficult to actually see what we can do. So let's get started with technical analysis. Let's go ahead and start on ES. As you can see, we're right around that all-time high territory here as well. mm, 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 mm. I'm just gonna mark out everything that we can. Now recently, as we've approached these all-time high areas, we've been seeing more choppy action. So volume here, that's gonna be my guess, not confirmed, but I'm guessing that volume, high volume there, high volume here, which does work out with this liquidity and zone. So if price comes back to here, we can likely easily make a rebuttal back up towards the top. But we do have liquidity there as well, and liquidity there. Since I do want to analyze today's market session as well, I'll mark before 8:30. There we go. So everything that we have is still good. Let's go back and see what's there. And we're really close to those highs. Do want to go ahead and mark these out. I'm not going to mark out very specifically quite yet. But I do want to see a price reacts at each one of these levels and the levels above and below. That one doesn't work. And we're going to have these three as well. Take a look at how those liquidity levels and zones actually played out with price. Right as we started to approach that relative area, price started to make rebuttals and essentially produce high amounts of volume there. So from what I'm seeing, I'm expecting price to revolve around this range a bit, but if we see one strong breakout, we can head up to this higher level. And at that higher level, depending on how we react there, we can reach for new all-time highs. Now this is very good because we do have a 2-hour zone there. That does seem to work out with the structure that we've been creating recently, but none of these zones matter without actual validation with market data. Because we've created a lot of zones. Oops. Mm, Alright, this is standard liquidity. There we go. 1 hour. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, so I'm gonna remove this zone, but you saw the importance of that overall level, and we see how price started to generate higher amounts of volume as we approach that area. And we'll know that more when we go on the higher time frame footprint chart. Can go on, let's say 4 hour. Look how much volume we've been generating here at the top. 300. This is New York session, of course, but right as we started to approach, we're generating lots of condensed volume here at these highs. And previously, we've just been moving and creating distributed volume within the candles, but it's not condensing within one level. While here, we're seeing that condensed amount of volume within these levels, and you can really see that right here as well. This entire area has been condensed with lots of of volume. There, 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 there. This entire area is filled with volume, and this is going to be a key zone that if we break below this volume area, price should be able to continue dropping. But if we hold it, we can continue going upwards. And with the structure that we've been creating right now, it does look like we can head on higher. But we'll confirm that with volume profile as well. So let's go on 4 hours just so I can show you guys what I mean. Typically when we're in a consolidation period, that's typically where high amounts of volume are, and that's typically where we see our reversals or retracements or continuations. So let's go ahead and mark this back there. And yeah, would you look at that? Most amount of volume is here. Second most amount, right where this liquidity is. Third most amount in this consolidation zone. So you see how these levels are confirming what we're seeing. Now we do see this level and we do see a small spike here, which does make me not like this zone as much, so I am going to remove it. We see this area playing out, and since there's volume here too, that's significant, we can keep that. And this, it has shown itself to hold, and we've been seeing volume throughout this entire area. That works, but this is the low volume node, and at that low volume node we saw a zone, which is showing me that price can likely easily break through. So I would not be marking that, but we see volume down at these lows as well, where we're seeing more consolidation. But yeah, now we just validated our different levels using our volume profile analysis, and you can do the same here on NQ. So I do want to mark out the highs that we've been at. And NQ, we did make new highs. So honestly, nothing we can see there. We just have to mark out the levels that are as close as possible towards those highs. So you have this, 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 and these three right there. And this would be a zone as well. Mark that entire range out because it won't hurt us to do so. And yeah, on NQ, we've actually seen a larger drop off than we've seen on ES. 4 hour time frames are looking a lot different because look at how NQ is looking right here. And now look at how ES is looking right there. ES is looking like it's making higher highs. And Q is looking like it's making lower highs and that we're falling off. Now it can be hard to tell, so we do have to see how we play out. But NQ might be giving us a sign that price may drop off. Or it could be ES. We just have to identify the leading symbol and work with that, because what I'm seeing here is that this level right here is holding, and because that is holding, I do think you can see a continuation upwards. But we're seeing that right as we start to get into that entire area with so much of our key levels, that's where we start to see action that is not just continual upside move. So let's go ahead and remove all that. I just wanted to show that there for demonstration and overall conceptual understanding. Main liquidity, we had main liquidity there. When did that get broken into? Likely market open. We had this level, and this level is very, very nice. You had this zone as well. do not, I'm gonna mark from there. There we go, and then we have zone there as well, which won't hurt to mark out. Alright, there we go. And you're gonna see the same thing that we talked about with volume there as well. Not seeing anything else on 3 hour, 2 hour. I am seeing this zone right here, but we'll mark it and it's likely that likely got disapproved by volume, but we can confirm or reject that later. Just mark it for now. But not seeing too much else. I am seeing standard liquidity there as well. 1 hour, do have liquidity there. Yeah, nothing too crazy after that. Let's mark 8 a.m. candle prior. That should do the job. Nah, that might be too much. There, right as this up move started. And here we see lots of volume, but I'm focusing on where volume was at its highest. We see volume being distributed throughout this overall range, but the points where volume is highest is 1, at these 2 liquidity levels, and 2, this consolidation zone near the top where we had our most levels. So where this 2 hour at is not necessarily getting disapproved, so we would keep it going into the market, but simply the fact that we pushed through it so easily would allow this to be taken off. Additionally, these 2 levels, they were in an area of low volume, but volume did spike right when these 2 spiked as well. And if you move this closer, you can understand that as well. I typically would take this liquidity off, but the fact that we've seen so much activity around it, I am going to keep it there. But nothing else I can invalidate or additional validation with the volume profile. But yeah, that's the overall charting here on NQ. So going back on ES, essentially what I'm trying to get at is that we are very close to all-time highs on the S&P 500 futures. We have to see how price reacts at this area, because from what we've been seeing on NQ, price has started to fall after we've taken out these all-time highs. Now, depending on how we hold different levels close to these highs, depending on how we hold these levels, the last point of breakage that I see imbalance below is going to be this area. If we break below this area, price can start going down again. But if we can hold this area, or even this area around here, I expect price to continue going up. And the part where we have to be careful is below this zone. Between this X and this X is a point where we have to be careful, because we can't identify so greatly whether price will reject from that area and continue to go up, or reject and continue to go down. Our analysis here at this zone, if price gets down there, is going to be very important. But from looking at where we're at, we swept this liquidity, started making higher highs, and now price is starting to move upwards. Who knows if this liquidity actually worked that way? Order flow will tell us, and from looking at order flow, we did see a large amount of volume around that relative time, which does seem to validate our idea that price may be starting to reverse because we've been seeing not reverse but may continue towards the upside. Because although we've been seeing large amounts of volume near these highs, there's nothing really indicating us at buyer absorption, right? Although we do see buyer absorption there, these sellers look to be getting more absorbed than buyers. I'll go even onto the daily time frame because maybe we can see something further on there. But yeah, nothing is really hinting on a higher time frame impactful amount of absorption on the daily. Like, let me see if I can find an example. Down here, we're seeing lots of volume being transacted down at these lower levels. Lots of volume. Buyers do seem to be getting in aggressively at this area more than sellers. And those sellers that are coming in, they seem to be getting absorbed. I would like to see a better example, but essentially when there's such high volume, that does indicate and direct us towards the idea of absorption. Let me try finding a better example for you guys. There. This is a pretty good example. Alright, take a look at this overall candle. What do you notice? Well, first of all, what I notice is that where is the volume distributed? Like, this is so clear. A high amount of volume is distributed near the top of this candle. And what do we see at the top of this candle? We see distributed delta within this candle. But what do you notice at the most high point or the upper side of this candle? We're seeing very aggressive buying come in. Although we are seeing aggressive selling come in, this selling is below where the buyers are at. That's typical with how the DOM works, but what I'm trying to get at is that it's likely that buyers tried coming in aggressively at this level. They were unable to do so, so aggressive sellers were able to come in with high volume without the appearance of buyers and later strike an imbalance downwards. And here we might be seeing seller absorption because sellers are trying to come in with aggressiveness, but they're unable to do so. These are not the best examples because I do want to see a bigger wick. Here we are seeing a wick with the next candle being a quick sell-off. And who knows if it's quick or not, this is the daily time frame. But on this candle, we're seeing this happen and now buyers are coming in, but now buyers are coming down. If this candle occurred where buyers came in like this, price may continue going up. But as you can see, it doesn't because of that quick wick down. It's likely that this delta occurred at the bottom as we were continuing to go down. Let me see if I can delete all my. Alright. But yeah, essentially nothing too serious that we're seeing here. We're not seeing either side get absorbed per se. We're seeing, like, as we came into this candle, we saw lots of volume near the bottom here. And then that volume is going upwards in terms of the peaks of volume. Essentially what that's saying to me is that price and the participants in the market are agreeing at trading at a higher and higher level, which is bullish. But sellers are showing themselves aggressively, and they're passive sellers that are likely at these areas that are making price struggle to move higher. So that's where Bookmap will come in. I do want to see how Bookmap is for these days. So I am going to be identifying Bookmap and doing some analysis on there. That's a quick hack, by the way, if you want to get this full screen within the tab. Yeah, so what I'm seeing already at this lower side is this is essentially at 5 a.m. But at 5 a.m., what we saw was lots of passive buyers in the market. Sellers tried coming in, very aggressive passive, not aggressive, but lots of passive buyers. Sellers are now pushing price lower. Buyers are starting to come in. Price may continue to go higher until 6250. See, now we have a barrier. Now passive buyers have agreed to enter at a higher price, which is essentially build more volume higher. So pretend there's a barrier here and that barrier moved upwards. Pretend that these barriers are volume areas. High volume here, volume is moving up. If we come back into this volume, transact, if we don't break through that area and react, we should be able to continue heading upwards towards the next significant levels. And as we see here, we're transacting a lot here at this level. But what we do see happen is price bump up. We did see price bump up from that barrier. But now we're just navigating around their point of control. We are seeing passive sellers come in, come down, but then barriers continue to move up. Not much volume here to actually make two predictable plays, but we see price actually come down, and this the fact that once it loads I can explain, but the fact that a very aggressive passive seller came in and aggressive seller iceberg started to come in, that's the point where things started to shift and these passive buyers moved down. Because if you see at this area, look at what happened to these passive buyers. They moved their orders down, which is bearish. Yeah, now here volume had started to increase. This is pre-market. But I just want to go to market open time, so ignore the fluff. I was just trying to demonstrate this concept. 9:30. So essentially we've done our overall week analysis, right? Pre-week, this week, whatever you want to call it. This is combined analysis because this is not pre-week anymore. But we talked about why this area is very important to monitor and why we have to be careful at different levels, especially around areas where there's a lot of uncertainty regarding our volume idea and where we have to see whether price will go up or down from that level, from this X down to this area. So this relative area at that 4 hour, you have to be very careful at that area, which does seem to, hold on, let me just check something real quick. 25th at 9, 25th at 9. So yeah, what that 4 hour relates with on ES is this level here. So assuming price gets down here, if we break below this like we mentioned before as well, we can continue heading down. But this area is going to be our last level of support. But NQ is showing that there might be more below, but we just have to monitor. But what I'm really looking at is how this level holds and how that same level holds on NQ, this area. But yeah, so now I just want to see if there are any potential setups that we could have made today with what we know, do a quick market analysis on today, and then conclude this video. This has already been a 30-minute video, pretty long, but I'm doing this live with you guys. I have not prepped before this or anything, that's why I might be slow at some of this, but I really want to understand more about this with you guys, and I don't want to skim out on anything. But yeah, let's go on to the 5 minute and see what we potentially could have got. Powell was speaking starting 8:30 a.m. today, Central Time. So with Powell, we might see a lot of uncertainty. So at this point, I'm gonna be honest, we just have to see whether we have clear signals as to where we'll go towards this upper liquidity level or towards this lower liquidity area. And as you can see, the market session very, very choppy. So I'm gonna be honest, it's likely very unlucky that we do see any setups here today. But let's check for it nonetheless. There we go. Just adjust that real quick. There we go. Alright. Now we're here at market open time. But yeah, let's do our quick market analysis, see if there's any setups here for today. Give me one sec, I'm waiting for these pop-ups to exit out. There we go. Okay. Right at market open, what we saw was that price went up into this passive selling area right around 834, around here. And buyers did seem to push through it aggressively. Not seeing too much there. When Powell speaks, typically volume tends to decrease, and with the Canadian market being closed today, it does make sense why there's less overall passive orders. But yeah, what I'm seeing here though, lots of passive selling there towards the top. No barriers to lead me towards either side, but this does seem to be a good target if you do have other confluences. This is right at 845-ish. So we do see a decent retracement play here. We break up towards these highs, come back down towards this area, which would be V2. Yep, right at their V2 levels. And then we start to see continuation upwards. And at those levels, at these lows, we started seeing aggressive selling delta start pulling in. Not necessarily with a lot of volume, but we started to see aggressive selling start to come in there, which was unable to push down lower. Right here. And at the area we saw buyer icebergs come in, I do want to see liquidity actually being there on Bookmap. So although it looks great with our confluences that we have to take along there, we don't have that actual passive buyer confirmation on Bookmap, thus we will not enter. But let's keep going. Here we're between two levels very closely. If we break down towards the downside potential play, I do want to see how price reacts here. Broke down towards the downside. Made lots of volume here at 9 a.m. And that was jolts, so it makes sense. So yeah, jolts news, nothing to be done there. Let's keep moving forward. Now we're coming back up towards these levels. Nothing necessarily telling me that we can make a continuation play towards there. And by now it's already 9:05. Then we're there. We do seem to continue up. No barriers. We just continue heading upwards. I-16. This candle right here. Okay, here we do see a barrier start pulling in, and at these highs, what we've seen is that buyers came in with aggressive volume. We've been seeing volume here at the top with aggressive buying, but these buyers are unable to push through. Now, for me, I see this barrier pop up. If we can retrace into that barrier, see absorption once again, I'll be more than happy to take a short targeting 6235 or 6245, depending on where we can aim for. And as you do see, shorts do come in, but I don't know if price will actually retrace towards that barrier. Yeah, no retracement there. Now we're between two levels once again, down here and down here as well. Now it's already 9:30. So 9:30 is where I'm really looking for a play. And it does seem like we had that retracement that we wanted there at 9:30. That happens a lot. That's what I've been noticing. Around 9:30, that's when we've been seeing lots of plays come in. We do see a fair value gap there, but I don't know what to say about that. Here, 6249 to 6248. 6249. Ooh, this might set us up for a pretty good play. I'm not gonna lie. This is 32. Ooh, yeah, this could potentially be the play that could have happened today. Here at 9:30. Price started reversing from these highs. And if you look on the 1 hour, I do think that's likely liquidity as well. Yep. Yeah, so you come up into these 1 hour highs, see overall absorption near those highs, price starts falling down. And as we saw that sweep of or takeage of liquidity, we start coming down with strength. Price starts to make a retracement, and now we have come into this big level of passive sellers that increased over time in significance. So now we've been seeing more and more passive sellers start to come in. So I really want to see how this barrier holds. And let's just see how it holds. We're seeing buyer icebergs and seller icebergs. And mm, buyers are coming in aggressively into that area, but they're unable to push through, and we're not even seeing those aggressive buyers come in at these highs. We have not been seeing those buyers actually try to push in. And as you can see, we're starting to see a reaction off of that barrier. See now, I see a reaction, 6426.25. This is like where we could have taken a short entry. We see volume here at the top, unable to break through. Aggressive selling starts to come in. We see the fact that barriers have been moving down. Potential entry. One thing I would have liked to see is more clear absorption at this level. I wanted to see buyers come in aggressively there, but this is just a typical area, and we did see a decent amount of volume. Nothing too serious though. Most of our volume would likely be at the bottom. But let's just say we do take an entry. All things said, we likely would not have taken a trade anyways because we want an A plus tier setup if we're taking a trade, especially during Newsweek. This is A tier setup simply because we did not see that absorption there. So likely no setup with real capital, but here, if we actually do make a setup, which is a good setup, I'm not gonna lie, it would look like this. And we've talked about the confluences that made us take it, but here at 6246 would have been our entry. 6246, 6246, 6246.25. So let's just say 6246.5 to make our entry. No, not 5. Let's say 6426 to make our entry lower. There. And then we keep our stop above this area. So let's just say 6250 just to allow our stop to have enough space. 16 takes stop loss, not bad at all. Now where can we target? Well, there's honestly multiple areas that we can target, but no clear target. And that's another reason why you typically would not enter. But what I am seeing is that 6235, we are seeing 100 contracts, so we can keep that as our first target, 6235. 6235. And would you look at that? Does seem to work out pretty well. But yeah, let's keep going, see if there's any signs of invalidation or continuation signals. There, I don't know about that. We see a very aggressive passive seller there. Price may or may not be attracted to that, but I'm seeing 375 sell icebergs come in, which is supportive of our thing if we keep that in mind as well. But now here, look. Now we see the sell barrier come in at 6242. We can move our stop down there. So we would have moved our stop down into profit. And from that area, I don't think we go back up to that area. Yeah, these passive sellers keep pushing price lower. Now here things start to get a bit confusing. But actually, this is after our TP would have hit. Yeah, well, our TP is right there, 6235. And if we take a look, we go straight through it. That couldn't be more perfect, I'm gonna be completely honest. That liquidity is not bad liquidity at all. We started seeing barrier follow through within our confluences and price continued to fall. This would have been quite a very, very good setup that you could have taken today. And once again, it's at that 9:30 time. So keep in mind and keep these data, analyze your data and see what you can get from that data. You can pick up on different patterns through experience and see what works for your strategy at different times and much more. But we see that happen. But that's one of that's a really good setup that we likely could have taken today. Now let's see what happens in the rest of market session until 10:30. Till right there. You see price continue down, but I do want to see what happens. Alright, so after that sweep, price starts to consolidate around this area and starts to head back into these barriers. So I do want to see how footprint is reacting at that area right around the 955 candle. So right here. And we are seeing buyer we are seeing buyers come in, so potential sells could have come in there, but where could we even target if we took the sells? Maybe we would have taken a sell there. It's hard to completely tell because this is such distributed, it's a big distributed barrier. Let's see. 55. Start seeing sell off, aggressive selling starts to come in. Okay, say we do enter somewhere here, likely off the first reaction, right? And I'm saying we enter even though we may not have entered. I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. Six two three 8.75. So say we did get a short entry at 6238.75. Right there. Where would you keep our stop? Yeah, it's a very, very big area to keep a stop at 624 3.5. So let's say 0.25, but 0.5 would maybe be more significant. We see that be our stop, and where would we target? We would likely target this lower area, 6232. 6232. And yeah, look at this trade, right? This trade would have essentially edged us from take profit because it took out our stop, then we started coming down. But this trade wouldn't even be that bad because confluences did align. But what I do want to see is if we saw invalidation signals here at the bottom in which we could have exited without taking a loss. Honestly, let's see. Just looking, just watching. Uh, 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 uh. I mean, very aggressive buying started to kick in. Potentially, we could have found an exit simply because of the fact that aggressive buying started to come in and seller aggression started dying out. We did not see barriers come in to support us for the downside, and we saw a break of structure towards the upside within a order flow based level. These buyers started coming in aggressively and heading towards our upper area. With that in mind, we do still have a barrier there. So I would say it's a 50-50 between whether we exit or stay in. But let's just say we do stay in because I'm trying to keep a very realistic view on the things that we're seeing. And honestly, we see a very aggressive buying start to kick in. Very, very aggressively. When do we actually get stopped out? Right at 10. So we get stopped around right there. Damn. Mm, we likely wanted to head back to VWAP, but say we did take a loss. We did not see any invalidation signals per se there. So honestly, we might have actually taken a loss there for 19 takes. But we remember we took a profit for 44 takes, which would still put us up around 24 takes on the day if we took these two trades. But there's also a pretty high chance that we would have exited early, seeing that aggressive buyers and potentially exited for a smaller loss. But we just assumed that we did take the loss to keep things as realistic as possible. But let's see what happens after. Yeah, here we start seeing seller icebergs come in. We're seeing, no, we just saw aggressive selling start to come in after that. Potential absorption there, I'm not too keen on that. Potential absorption, I do want to see clear absorption for everything. If the things I do see are not clear, I won't bet on it with capital. But 50-50 absorption there likely pushed the price down. Now we're seeing aggressive selling icebergs and buying icebergs. Might see consolidation around this area and a breakout. And we do see consolidation around this area, but what is more interesting to me is that we have these two passive buyer areas right around 10-15-ish around these two candles. And down there we're seeing lots of volume here near the bottom. Lots of buy orders come in. And here lots of sell orders come in, unable to push price lower. Then price starts to move up, break through these selling barriers. But we still have this big sell barrier here. Want to see how price reacts to that. And maybe we would have got a trade there. Came down to that area. I don't know if we would have taken a trade there because simply due to the fact that once we came down to these levels, we already saw absorption of sellers. And when we see absorption of sellers, it's not the best sign for taking a continuation on the short side. Now, if we saw absorption there, we potentially could have taken a sell. But that absorption has to look pretty good for us to do anything. Right at the start of the candle. And we're not seeing lots of buyers at the area. We're not even seeing that much tap in. We're seeing these sellers come in. As these sellers start to come in, what we're seeing now is that as we're coming down, we're seeing a buy barrier there. And with the fact that we saw absorption and a buy barrier starting to form, we would have exited with that in mind. And because of that in mind, as we start to see aggressive buyers, likely would have exited for break even if we would have entered there. And because of that, that would have likely been a break even trade if we took that trade, and there's 75% chance that we would not have taken that trade simply because of the fact that we saw seller absorption prior. And after that, it looks to be a pretty aggressive move towards the upside. Yep, aggressive move towards the upside. 10:30 we started to see passive just consolidation within passive liquidity. So that's honestly going to be the market analysis here for today. With the risk management in mind, what's 44 minus 20, let's say? That would put us 24 ticks in profit. And with that on one contract on ES, let's simply do the math, right? What is 24 times 12.5? That's 300. So with one win and one loser, you could have made upwards of $300 on just one contract, which is very, very good. But yeah, that's that. Those are the trades that I see here today regarding setups, regarding today's market analysis. We went over the whole week analysis before that. And yeah, I don't know what else I can say this video. This video has already been 15 minutes long, packed with a live analysis of the market, and that's all I have here for today. If you want to take advantage of Footprint and Bookmap for completely free and start practicing today, even if that means with a small delay, take advantage of the links in the description down below. Addis is a channel partner, so you guys can take advantage of that. To start practicing, I wouldn't encourage splurging your money into live Footprint just yet. Start practicing to see how it aligns with your strategy with past data and then potentially apply it onto future data. So definitely take a look at that. Additionally, if you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord server. The link is in the description down below. Lots of resources there for completely free that I think you may gain a thing or two out of. Additionally, if you guys have any questions, you can leave a comment down below as well. Interact with the video if you liked it, and that's all I have here for today. I should see you guys tomorrow for a pre-analysis and also a market analysis video, if not a pre-analysis. But I'll see you guys tomorrow, and that's all I have here for today. Goodbye.